So this video is focusing on the primacy of the House of Commons and trying to understand why it is that the House of Commons has superiority within Parliament over the House of Lords. There are three parts to Parliament: the House of Commons, the House of Lords, and what's called the Crown in Parliament, which is the formal name for the role of the monarch within Parliament. The House of Commons is the elected chamber. It's made up of 650 MPs, all of whom are elected either at a general election or, if there's a vacancy, at a by-election in between general elections. Even the Speaker is elected to sit in the House of Commons. They, however, are impartial and neutral, or at least should be, and therefore, by convention, the major parties don't put up an opponent in the Speaker's constituency at a general election. The House of Lords is the unelected chamber of Parliament. It is made up of 26 Church of England bishops, it's made up of some judges, it's made up of life peers, people who are appointed to the House of Lords for their life, and also 92 accepted hereditary peers. Until 1999, any hereditary peer had a right to sit in the House of Lords. However, the 1999 House of Lords Act removed that right for all but 92 hereditary peers. Now, interestingly, 90 of them actually have been elected to sit in the House of Lords. However, those elections only take place amongst the hereditary peers of their own party. So, for example, when a Labour hereditary peer dies, there is a by-election amongst Labour hereditary peers to see which of their number they now wish to sit in the House of Lords as an accepted hereditary peer. Compared to the House of Commons, the House of Lords is also more bipartisan. There is no one party that dominates in the House of Lords. The Conservatives are currently the biggest party and always have been, but crossbenchers, 184 crossbenchers in the House of Lords, Labour 173, Liberal Democrats 83. No party is able to dominate the House of Lords as they are in the House of Commons. Finally, the Crown in Parliament. The monarch's role now is symbolic and ceremonial rather than political. For example, the monarch still has to grant royal assent to laws, to bills passed by the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Until they do, that does not become an Act of Parliament. It is not legally binding. However, by convention, the monarch always gives royal assent. The last time, in fact, a monarch refused royal assent was in 1708, when Queen Anne refused to give royal assent to the Scottish Militia Bill. These days, that is simply not going to happen. It is reported that King George V considered withholding royal assent in 1914 to the Home Rule Bill. Thankfully for him, I think, because it would have caused a major constitutional crisis. In the end, he didn't need to. The First World War intervened and the bill did not progress that far anyway. In addition, there are other roles within Parliament that the monarch has, for example, dissolving Parliament, opening Parliament, but all of which they do on the advice of the Prime Minister. So their role is definitely ceremonial and symbolic. So what are the things that actually make the House of Commons superior to the House of Lords? What makes it more powerful? The first are the Parliament Acts. 1911 and 1949 are the years of the Parliament Acts. Before the Parliament Acts, the House of Lords could block a bill from passing. Now they cannot. They can only delay a bill from passing. The 1911 Act that allowed the House of Lords to delay a bill for 2 years. The 1949 Act allows them to delay a bill for 1 year. That means now if the House of Commons pass the same bill for 2 parliamentary sessions, they can automatically leapfrog the House of Lords if they feel they need to. The last time this was used was in 2004 over the Hunting Act, and in fact that's only been used 4 times since 1949. However, that doesn't mean it's unimportant. In fact, the very fact that it's only been used 4 times is because the House of Lords are far more willing now to back down to the House of Commons because of the Parliament Acts. So they are really important in establishing the House of Commons' superiority over the House of Lords. Also, the House of Commons have financial privilege. The House of Lords, by convention, do not vote against taxation. They do not vote against government spending. Only the House of Commons have a say on those matters. Therefore, this gives the House of Commons a lot of power over that area of government. There is also the Salisbury Convention, which was founded in 1947-48. The Salisbury Convention says that if there is a bill that was in the manifesto of a party that is governing in the House of Commons that has a majority, the House of Lords should not stand in its way. The reason for that is to stop the unelected House of Lords preventing the clearly expressed wishes of the electorate who have just chosen a government to govern. So therefore, the House of Lords do not vote against bills that are clearly in the government's manifesto. There's also a convention called the Reasonable Time Convention, which says the House of Lords do not unduly delay their scrutiny of Commons legislation or legislation more broadly. And this is really important to stop the House of Lords just grinding things to a halt as a way to obstruct the House of Commons. There is also the location of the Great Offices of State. The Great Offices of State are Prime Minister, Home Secretary, Foreign Secretary and Chancellor of the Exchequer. And by convention, it is now definitely expected that the holders of those offices sit in the House of Commons. The last holder of a Great Office of State not to come from the House of Commons was Lord Carrington, who sat in the House of Lords as Foreign Secretary and then resigned in 1982. It's pretty after the Argentinian invasion of the Falkland Islands. It's pretty unthinkable now to think that it would be acceptable for one of the Great Offices of State to come from the House of Lords, although other government ministers do, and that's important to allow the House of Lords to scrutinise the government. There is also, finally, the representative function of the House of Commons. The fact that the House of Commons is democratically elected gives it more legitimacy than the House of Lords, gives it more of a mandate to have a say on those big topical issues in the country. So the House of Lords do recognise that, and it makes them more likely to back down to the House of Commons in any dispute. So these are some of the reasons why the House of Commons is superior to the House of Lords in the UK political system.